So we've got our wing set. We've got our front axle ride height set. The next steps you got to do to prepare the car for running is oil the axles and grease the gears. I like to use NSR brand oil. This one is for the bronze bearings. They also have it for ball bearings. And I like to use NSR plastic gear grease. They also have metal gear grease for the angle and sidewinder cars that are all metal. These cars actually have a plastic crown gear. So it's one piece of plastic, one piece of brass, so plastic grease. It's often quite easier to remove the body to get the grease exactly where you want it, the oil exactly where you want it. For the Formula 22 cars, there's 2 screws, one in the front, one in the rear, that hold the body on. Just take those screws out. Right now these are just the standard stock NSR self-tapping sheet metal plastic screws. We'll be upgrading them when we get the body on its final fit to metric screws with shoulders to keep any binding. So remove the body, and now you can get to the exact points where you want to put the drops of oil. 1 drop's all it takes. 1 on each side of the front axle. And do the same for the rear. So you want to get right back here at the bearing and between that spacer. You see these are large, long bronze spacers. We'll be upgrading them also. We'll do all that at a later stage where we're actually spending more money on the car. The first sets of the setups we will be doing is all basically free. Just going to do tuning, no parts replacement initially. One drop of oil on each side, all it takes. The grease, I like to put it around the pinion and then let the pinion spread it out. The plastic gear grease is clear, kind of like the metal gear grease better. It's black, you can see it better. I'm sure you can't even see this in the camera, but it's going on. It's just a clear film, looks like silicone. Let the pinion gear work the grease into the crown gear. I also like to put a drop in between in this guide right here, where the motor shaft sticks in the crown gear. Put a drop in there to ensure everything is free, no binding. So while you have the body off, you might as well test some of the fit and finish from the factory. The motor pod should float freely, back and forth. Should be no vertical movement. Only horizontal, floating all around in like a circle. Does not go vertical. If it goes vertical, you'll need to tighten these screws. The nuts are locked already into the pod. Just tighten the screw, and now you see it doesn't move. Back it out till you get the horizontal movement, no vertical. There. You can see the motor pod moving under the nut and no vertical movement. Make sure that's the same for all, but the motor pod uses 3. It's got 5 connection points, but from the factory they're only using 3. So that's what we'll stick with for now. And the front. Alright, other things you could check for is side movement in the rear axle. There should be no side movement. If it is, you'll need to loosen the tires, bring them in, tighten it up, get rid of all the slop out of the axle. The front axle has a very less than a millimeter of movement. Camera probably doesn't even pick it up. But it's so minimum that I'm not going to adjust it now. We'll adjust it later when we take these wheels off for truing. There. You can see that gap. It's like a half a millimeter in there. And we'll take that out later. We'll also be replacing those plastic spacers with bronze spacers.